All right, how are you guys this fine Sunday morning? It is December 1st. 'Tis the season. We'll be doing some decorating today. We'll drag out all the Christmas stuff, give the house some TLC. You know, lately my live streams have been really killing it, and it's been both exhilarating and overwhelming. I'm not used to the discourse. I'm not used to the amount of people talking to me at the same time, and sometimes it's hard to keep up. But questions keep popping up over and over again with certain themes, and one of them I thought would be interesting to talk about this morning, and that is, how do I become a powerlifter? One of the things that I like to do on my channel is I pick certain themes out of the discourse, and one of them would be a response to comments. I'll do videos where I'll respond just to comments, both good and bad. I picked out for this morning, world's strongest Marine 50-year-old jarhead deadlifts 600 pounds. And my comment is from Sevi101. Fail. Hips didn't get through. Do some deficit deadlifts and some dyno deadlifts for speed for him from the floor and lock out strength. You lack both of the above. Better still, forget it and go paint the fence or spend time with your family. You're wasting time playing with weights. Oh, I gotta love it. Sevi, if you watch my channel, you know I spend most of my time with my family, but that's the ironic part about it. Man, gotta love it. But we also pick out good comments too. We like to pick out things that are useful to talk about. For example, we have Family Guy Clips 4741 responding to two good camber bar squats at 545 pounds, 50 years old. And he asks, what's the point of squatting with this bar, a more upright position? And then, of course, we talk about, why would you use a camber bar? So a lot of the questions are either saying, wow, you did great, old man, or you're awful and you should kill yourself, to, hey, why do you do things like that? And those are the ones I really like to focus on. But we like to have fun, too. So I like to take the comments that make fun of me and just, try to make something fun out of it. But in this video, I thought I would respond to the myriad of questions involving how to get into powerlifting. It's super simple, guys, and I'll just explain to you how I did it. My entrance to the sport was an interesting one. Roughly 12 years ago, I got sober, and a buddy of mine, we started working out. And we were training at this small gym in Henderson, Nevada. It's called Express Fitness, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a little tiny gym, not much equipment, but in the corner there was this small group of people, and they had what I came to learn was called a multi-rack. They had a couple of interesting barbells, and they would all get in their little group, and they would do 3 lifts: bench, deadlift, and squat. They had all ages, kids as young as 13 and guys as old as 70. And they would train on Mondays and Wednesdays at this little tiny Express Fitness in Henderson. Later on, I found that Alan Ayers, he passed away, God bless him. He's a multi-world champion, and he used to be the vice president of the USBA. Him and his wife were training there, and it was just a little gym that accommodated him. So it's hard. He found that it was hard to find a space that would tolerate, the power lifters in the corner with their specialized equipment that nobody could touch. Nobody could use their deadlift bar. I didn't know any of that at the time. At other gyms, they would have equipment, and they would buy equipment and have it so that they could go train there. And in the off time, they'd come back and their bars would be all bent up and their equipment would be damaged because guys were doing rack pulls with a deadlift bar and bending the crap out of it, whatever. Anyways, me and Steve were training at this gym, and we were total bro lifters. We just did our sets of whatever, 2 whatever, 4 whatever. We do all the different exercises, and we just watch people lift, and we would do what they were doing. And we were actually getting pretty big. You get those newbie gains when you first start working out. You get like 6 months where you just can't really do it wrong. You know what I mean? Your body's adapting to stress, and you're introducing stress, even if it's bad form. So you're going to get results at first. Well, I guess they were watching us as we were watching them. because he had noticed that we were pretty strong, but we were awful and we were going to hurt ourselves. So he offered for us to start training with him, and reluctantly I did. And unfortunately, Alan's rule was if you're going to train with him, you're going to compete. So he had entered me into a local meet without even asking me. He had purchased me an Iron Rebel singlet, which I still wear to this day, and he bought me some wrist wraps. And he said, here you go, here's your wrist wraps, here's your singlet, you're lifting on this date. If you're going to train with us, you're going to compete. Okay, and that was literally how I got into the sport. I had no intentions, I didn't think I was going to do well. I had no idea what I was getting into. But the cool thing is that the competition was actually being held at that gym. He had negotiated with the gym owner to have it there at that facility, so it was super simple. All I had to do was show up, and it changed my life. Now, keeping in mind at this time, I'm 40 years old, I'm 100% natural. My lifts, while strong, I was deadlifting somewhere like 530. My bench was not even 300 pounds. I think it was maybe 280. I don't know what my squat was. I want to say 450 pounds at the most. While those weren't particularly impressive compared to the other lifters, I remember walking in and there was this one guy, really big dude, and we were all taking a break in between lifts and looking for food. They had a food truck outside and you could buy snacks. And I literally walked by this dude and he was eating an entire package of Oreo double stuffed cookies. And I looked at Steve and I said, are we doing this wrong? Because we had real food. Everybody else is jamming themselves full of donuts and all sorts of stuff. I'm like, well, maybe we're doing it wrong. Maybe we should do what they're doing. And he was looking at me like, I'm going to eat a whole box of donuts. And that same guy with those Oreo double stuff, he went up there to deadlift like 650 pounds, which at that time I'd never seen anybody do in real life. So it was incredible to me. You know, as I got better, you find that 650 is like, I don't want to say pedestrian. Anything over 600 is impressive. I don't care who you are or what you say, but for competition purposes, it's not uncommon to see that number. But at that time, that was the highest I'd ever seen, and I was just blown away. Well, what really blew me away, more than any of the weights, the impressive lifters, it was the camaraderie in the community. The fact that here I am, my first meet, I'm terrified, my lifts aren't that great, I don't know what I'm going to do, and they were just so accommodating. I immediately became family to all these people, and I still have friends from that competition to this day I talk to and train with. They just take you in. They don't care what you can lift. You could put one plate on the bar, and it wouldn't matter. If it's your first time, especially, they just love the effort. They love the fact that you're participating and helping to grow their sport. It was just so many memories from that first meet. First time I saw this guy, he weighed 160 pounds, but he was wearing what was called a bench suit. I had no idea what that was. And they said he was deadlifting 4 times his body weight. I just couldn't believe it. Now, I didn't realize that a lot of that was that suit he was wearing, but that's called equipped lifting. But it was just the craziest thing I've ever seen. The suit does add a significant amount of weight to your lift, but it doesn't lift the weights for you. There's a lot of technique involved in it. It's a different animal than raw lifting. For simplicity, I just stuck to raw lifting. Guys told me for years, why don't you do equipped? Why don't you throw a bench shirt on and hit 500 pounds? Why don't you, whatever, get some impressive numbers under your belt? So when people look at the records, they're not going to look at whether you were wearing a squat suit or not. When Eddie Hall broke that record with the deadlift, he was wearing a squat suit. Nobody's saying, well, he was wearing a suit. They just saw him lift 1,000 pounds. But the reason why I didn't go with equipped is just because it was prohibitively expensive to buy those custom tailored shirts and suits, and they're super uncomfortable. I don't know if you've ever seen the equipped lifters, but they walk up there like this with their arms sticking out because that suit's pulling their shoulders forward, and they have to stretch their arms into the bar. And you can say, well, why would you go through all that effort? Like, when Scott, what's his last name? I can't remember. When he broke the all-time total amount bench, I think it was like 1,100 pounds. And his raw bench was 600 pounds in the gym. You could say, well, the suit adds 400 pounds to his lift. Like, isn't that cheating? And I thought, well, no, because that's that sport. Those are different people. And the fact is like, even though the suit might add 400 pounds to your press off the chest, you still have to unrack and hold 1,100 pounds, and the human body was not designed to do that. And no amount of cloth you're going to put on your body is going to condition you to hold that weight. So, like, the whole thing is super impressive. The weight was so heavy that he said that his bones were bending while he was pulling the weight down to his chest. So it's just a different animal. I stick to raw lifting because it's super simple. Like, I know who the raw bench press record holder is. At the time when I first entered the sport, it was Eric Spoto, and he was right there with us. He was he trained at one of the local gyms, and he would show up at the meets. So right off the bat, being in Vegas, I got to meet some really cool people. That's where the USPA was headquartered. So I met all the top people of the organization, and we all just became friends. And I had no idea like how much of a privilege or an addition or an advantage it was to me to be dialed in with those kinds of people. But you know, it really wouldn't matter because I've been to meets all over the country and they're all the same. It's just there's always that group of gorillas that's at the top of the sport, and then there's people that are new and they don't know what they're doing, and then there's all sorts in the middle, and everybody just comes together and they're like one big happy family. It's awesome. There's no way to describe it. It's almost cult-like. So now the question becomes, where do you start? How do I actually compete? Simple. You go online, you type in powerlifting federations, and you pick one. I'm a USPA guy. I compete in the untested. You want to make sure that you pick the appropriate competition. Like the US APL is 100% tested, so those are all supposedly natural lifters. And then the like the IPL, the International Powerlifting League, is tested and untested. So they have nationals and worlds in both the untested and tested divisions. That it opens the invitation up to your big guys like Eddie Hall and Thor and all the famous lifters to compete. You see all these guys are breaking those records. They're competing in untested divisions. So all that means is there's no rules when it comes to what supplements you can take. Conversely, if you compete in a tested division, they're super strict. And if they test you, say you win a competition or you place very highly and they test you and you fail that test, you'll be banned for life from competing in the tested divisions. So they're pretty serious about it. And because there is untested and tested, there's a place for everybody to compete with, and you have the same advantages everybody else has. So there's no cheating. The only way I would be cheating is if I competed in in a tested division. And people do that. That happens from time to time. You'd be surprised, like with Olympic lifters and some of the strength sports, guys that are super strong could be on substances, and you'd never know because they don't look all bulked out like bodybuilders. But I've found in powerlifting, this itself, as opposed to Olympic weightlifting, the percentage of people that cheat is really, really low. People don't in powerlifting. It's pretty cool. Not to say it never happens, but no, once you got a federation, you go on their website and they usually have how to become a member and then an event calendar. You sign up, you pay your membership fee, which is usually good for a year. You find a meet that's close to you with their calendar, and you enter. Well, what do you need? What kind of equipment do you need? Do you need a coach? Do you need what special training? I worked out at a small Express Fitness in Henderson, Nevada. All we had was a deadlift bar. We had access to a squat rack, and we didn't even have a bench. We had one of those gym benches that we put in the squat rack so that we could use the safeties. Nothing special. I trained in my garage. You've seen my setup. My setup is garbage that I've cobbled together from estate sales, and I've trained to compete at 2 different nationals and 2 IPL worlds right out of this garage with this crappy equipment. A lot of people, they like to go to the gyms. There's powerlifting gyms in Las Vegas where they have teams that you can join, and they have all the equipment in the world and the best coaches and the best trainers, and you can spend thousands of dollars a year on coaching and training. And for me, I was more of a just let's dive in and get after it, and I found that just lifting with other lifters that competed in the sport was enough to get going. What does programming look like? Programming, you can pick up any program. I will say this: it doesn't matter what program you use as long as you stick with it. A lot of people, they'll start and they don't see the results they want within a couple of weeks, and then they'll start adding or subtracting, or they still want to do things the way they used to do them because this is how they feel comfortable doing it, and they're not going to get good results. I would say even if you don't think you're getting the results, you should be from the program you're doing it. If you're running it the way you're supposed to run it, as prescribed, follow through to the end before you make your decision as to whether or not that's a good program. A good example of that would be the starting strength 5x5. It's the simplest, most straightforward, easiest, lowest barrier to entry program that anybody can do. And it's one that I often recommend to new lifters because it's so easy and simple to follow. What is it? Quite simply, it's 5 sets of 5. You do 5 sets of 5 bench, you do 5 sets of 5 squats, you do 5 sets of 5 deadlift, and the accessories that go with them. It's really easy. And how does it progress? It's linear progression, meaning each week you're going to add a small percentage of weight to the amount you're lifting, and over time you're going to go up. Why does it work? It's great for beginner lifters because you have all that untapped adaptation to dive into, where your body is adapting to stress and you're just getting strong, and it feels like you're just going to get gains forever. Linear progression works until it doesn't. You're going to hit a plateau eventually because adding more weight to 5 sets of 5 just becomes impossible, and the workouts turn into a grind. Imagine, you starting out with 5 sets of 5 at 135 pounds. Challenging, but doable. What happens when you get up to 500 pounds? Holy crap, that's a nightmare. So, then you want to consider maybe switching to a different program, something a little more advanced. Wendler 531 is a good one. It includes, undulating periodization, and it accommodates, a lot of conjugate theories. And then, you're using big words. I'm a simple lifter. I just want to get into the sport of powerlifting. Pick a really simple program. Download Renaissance Periodization, Mike Israel's app. Or most gyms have a really basic program you can follow. Stick with it. Equipment needed. It's nice to have gym equipment, but really all you need is a barbell, a place to do deadlifts and squats, and enough weight where you can put yourself under adaptative stress to get to where you want to be when you want to start competing. Simple. Easy. I don't know what else to say. Do I need a coach? I find that it's always helpful to have somebody to check your form, bounce ideas off of, but you don't need a coach. A lot of people like to train alone. They like to do their own thing, and that's completely okay. I did that for years and had moderately good success. Now I found I had really, the level of success I had coached versus uncoached, there's night and day. I always did better with somebody that was programming my numbers for me. I'm a pretty simple guy. You give me the numbers, I'll go do that program. But a lot of people, they don't. They're a little more freestylish, or they have their own thing going on. Some people like to lift alone. Some people love to lift with other people. If you love to lift with other people, I recommend finding a gym where they encourage. You don't want to go to Planet Fitness where you're not allowed to do deadlifts. You got to be someplace that's going to encourage your style of lifting. So if they don't like powerlifters in their gym, find a gym where they do like powerlifters. A good litmus test is whether or not they have chalk available. If you go into the gym floor and it's pristine and there's no chalk available and there's no area where you can do lifts where you can use chalk, you've got the wrong facility, unfortunately. But there's usually plenty of places in town. There's 15 of them here in Vegas that I could think of off the top of my head, and I'm sure there's more. If not, you always got the garage as a backup, but that is a bit of a time and money investment. I understand that. What about dieting? Well, here's the good news, kids. A lot of powerlifters pick the sport of powerlifting because they're either overweight or they're underweight or they don't like their physique and they feel like they don't have what it takes to sculpt a beautiful body. So we're just going to become powerlifters. I know a lot of people that are morbidly obese that can lift a lot of weight and use that as an excuse to just be fat. They're like, oh, I'm a powerlifter. Whatever. You don't really need a diet to participate in the sport of powerlifting, but if you want to look halfway decent and you want to actually sculpt a little bit of a physique and you want to kill two birds with one stone, all you really, really need to do is monitor your calories. What I always tell people is really simple. Track your calories, track everything you eat, write every single thing you cram in your mouth down on a piece of paper for 2 weeks. That'll give you a good picture of what you're eating on a daily basis. And then from there, you can eliminate things like mayonnaise on sandwiches, like creamer from coffee, to get you down to a point where you're in a caloric deficit. And all you do is you start training hard, and you'll see that weight slowly come off. Well, gaining weight's the same way. You don't have to blow up and do huge bulking cycles. A lot of lifters do. Nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying don't. I have my preferences. I don't like to put on a bunch of fat. All I'll do is I'll add a few calories to that and slowly gain weight. So the idea is we're slowly going down, we're slowly going up. We're not making huge, drastic changes. And that's really my simple philosophy across the board. Don't do anything extreme that is going to really change the way you're doing things. Make it gradual. We gradually add weight. We gradually add reps. We gradually introduce new exercises. We gradually change our diet. We gradually supplement. Everything's gradual. It's small incremental changes that accumulate over time. But a lot of people don't have that delayed gratification and they want the instant results right now. So they're going to do something silly like hop on a bunch of steroids or cram themselves with so much food that they gain 100 pounds in 6 months. Drastic changes, don't do that. I recommend not doing it. I mean, you're free to do whatever you want. You always have me as a resource. If you really, really want to know, I'll sign you up. I will walk you through going online, getting signed up, and getting into a competition. It's really simple. Anybody can do it. And I can't suggest it high enough. You know, this is what I tell people. Whether you love the sport of powerlifting or not, you're already lifting. You're already interested. You're already watching my page. There's something that's speaking to you. So why not go try it? You know, Danny Wolfman Strong just did a strongman competition where his numbers, let's be honest, weren't particularly impressive compared to the other lifters, but his story is so amazing because he went from being bound to a wheelchair to competing in the sport of strongman. And here's what happened. Everybody loved him. They didn't give a crap about his numbers. They were just happy he was there and they were happy he was participating. And that's the same thing you're going to experience. Nobody gives a crap what you can bench. All they care is that you're becoming better than you were yesterday. It's an awesome sport, and I highly recommend it. Every single person should at least do one, even if they're not going to perform well, just to get the experience, because there's nothing like it in the world. If you love lifting, if you're already that guy that's ego lifting and throwing a bunch of weight around, why not just do a competition just to see what you got? Get your name in the numbers and the records, be all time. So if you compete somewhere, you can type your name in and you'll be on that list going all the way back to the 70s. You might not be ranked very high, but you'll be on that list forever. Put your mark in history. I was here. If you guys have any questions, you can always hit me up on Instagram, charles.widener. And it does take me a while to get back to everybody. So if you don't hear from me for a couple of days, I'm not ignoring you. I promise I will get back to you. As my channel's growing, and I love you guys, thank you so much for subscribing. It's becoming harder and harder for me to address all the messages, but I really do make an honest attempt to try to answer everybody. And I will continue to do so until it becomes untenable. And at that time, then we'll look at doing maybe something different. Maybe starting a server or a Discord or whatever. I don't know. Something. Well, I don't think I'm quite there yet. Everything I offer is free with no strings attached. I'm not looking for anything. Don't mind donations. You'll be helping me out because this is going to pay for my competition and all the equipment. It's super expensive to compete, especially at a high level. I have a team of people, and I need to compensate everybody. So anything that you guys help me out with does not go to waste, but I will never ask for money for helping with programming or any getting you better. Like that, there's never going to be strings attached to that. And on that note, I'm going to get with my family and we're going to put up Christmas decorations. It's that time of year again, baby. Until my next live stream, I love you guys, and I will see you on the battlefield.